On June 13, 1944, on the Channel coast of Europe, the age of the missile dawns. Vergeltung 1, vengeance weapon number 1, V1, is fired against England by Adolf Hitler. London, battered, bloody, but unbowed after 4 years of bombing, looks to the skies, bewildered. What is this strange object? The Allies have landed in France. Surely the war is almost over. This is Peenemünde, Germany's top-secret rocket research facility in the marshes and sand dunes near the Baltic Sea. Here in 1937 and 38, the guided missile is moving from the drawing boards to reality. The Germans, defeated in World War I and restricted by the Treaty of Versailles, turned to new arms. Military rocketry experiments started as early as 1929, before Hitler's rise to power. By 1932, Walter Dornberger had gathered around him in the Army Weapons Department a specialist staff, headed by a 19-year-old prodigy, Wernher von Braun, a name now famous in the unfinished narrative of space flight. Like all pioneering, the way at first is hard. The Germans are reaching toward the infinite. Money is sparse, scoffing general. Little is known about the exotic science of missiles and liquid-propelled rockets. Von Braun and his assistants dabble like ancient magicians in volatile, explosive, and powerful chemicals. Slowly but steadily, at Peenemünde, in the machine shops, in the laboratories, on the test stands, the resurgent military strength of the Third Reich is developing the strange new technology of the 20th century. Germany is moving, though with little urgency, toward the new era of robot war. The long years of effort pay off in prototypes of the weapons of tomorrow. At test stands at Peenemünde and elsewhere in Germany, giant rockets are nursed and tended, cradled in steel. The birds are about to fly. The tests are failures. The Germans learn by trial and error. In 1939, the year when World War II starts and the lights go out in Europe, Hitler witnesses for the first time the progress achieved in the development of liquid-propelled rockets. He is unimpressed. He does not grasp the meaning of tomorrow. Well, he says casually in departure, "Es war doch gewaltig." It was grand. And so the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler, which is to last 1,000 years, builds torpedoes, piloted planes, armored cars, guns, and tanks and submarines, old weapons of new design, a conventional war machine with unconventional tactics, geared to conquest built upon blitzkrieg, the dive bomber, and the tank. The missile has no place in Hitler's strategy. Germany prepares for war while Peenemünde carries on in the backwash of history. And the appeasers are asking, who wants to die for Danzig? Der Feldzug der 18 Tage, the campaign of the 18 days. The Blitz commences in Poland in that somber September of 1939. Hitler starts upon the paths of conquest. figurehead of the blitzkriegs in Poland, in the Low Countries, in France, is the powerful German Air Force. Its crack pilots, flushed with victory, are certain of their invincibility. Tomorrow, the world. The arrogant Hitler prepares for the final step. Invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion. Reichsmarshal Hermann Goering gives the order. The Luftwaffe will crush Britain from the air as a vital prelude to amphibious and paratroop attack. Certain that his war machine is supreme, Hitler strikes the long-range rocket from the list of military priorities. Peenemünde, cradle of future weaponry, is forgotten and forlorn. Wir fahren gegen England. We are sailing against England, resounds across Germany. In August 1940, the Battle of Britain opened. Hitler hurls 2,300 planes into the Adler Angriff, the Eagle attack, against 704 British fighters. The Luftwaffe is contemptuously confident. Beaten back in the skies over Britain, bogged down in the steppes of Russia, Hitler revises his strategy and, with his staff, reappraises his weapons. To report on the progress made in the development of the vengeance weapons, the missiles, Albert Speer, Minister of Armaments, is sent to Peenemünde by the Fuhrer. He sees first the V-1, or small pilotless flying bomb, with 25-foot wingspan, a speed of more than 350 miles an hour, ceiling of 6,000 feet, and range enough to reach England from the Channel coast. The timing device, lower right, is superimposed in these German films to aid technical research. And then, Vengeance Weapon 2. Walter Dornberger shows Speer his major project, a giant rocket taller than a three-story house. It arches 50 miles above the Earth, moves at 3,400 miles an hour, and has a range of 200 miles. Speer is impressed. He tells the Peenemünde scientists that he will urge Hitler to give top priority again to both V-1 and V-2. Speer reports to the Fuhrer, and by July 1943, Hitler is at last convinced. Peenemünde and its family of robot missiles are given top priority. What I want, says Hitler, is annihilation, annihilating effect. Peenemünde expands its facilities in the great push its scientists have been waiting for. The die is cast. The British, worried by disturbing reports from secret agents, start the greatest aerial reconnaissance effort of the war. A photograph which will forever have its place in history reveals one of the world's great secrets. A British intelligence officer discovers in a photo of Peenemünde a tiny shadow of a launching ramp and a V-1 upon it. Irrefutable confirmation of fantastic weapons. British people are not told, but the Royal Air Force is ordered to bomb Peenemünde and the entire German. Yet by D-Day, when the Allies storm Normandy, Nazi missile production and site construction are continuing relentlessly despite round-the-clock bombing. Now it becomes a race between the Allied ground advance and the German missile threat, a race in which Hitler wins the first heat. The V-1s are launched against London. A new chapter opens, the Battle of the Flying Bombs. The Allied invasion forces Hitler's hand before he is fully ready, and from the Channel coast, V-1s rain upon London. Unsuspecting England, battered by 4 years of war, has hoped with Allied air control for respite. But it is not to be. The new attack imposes upon the British people a staggering burden. Dawn brought no relief and cloud no comfort against the blind, impersonal enemy that dropped from the skies. Suffering London has to take it. The Allied strategy for victory cannot be imperiled. The V-1 is a stoppable weapon. The British track it with radar, shoot it down with fighters, check it with a balloon barrage, blast it with guns. Churchill, the indomitable, leads England's successful struggle against the flying bomb. Radar and proximity-fused shells from AA guns are the keystone of defense. Of 8,564 V-1s launched from France against London, about 2,400 reached the city. During that fateful summer of 1944, as the Allied armies drive toward the Rhine, the V-1s are fired against London. It is still a race between the struggling armies advancing on the missile launching sites and the dwindling power of V-1. For Peenemünde, where a mysterious cargo is trucked out with great secrecy, and for Adolf Hitler and his Third Reich, it is now the 11th hour. The V-1 has failed, it is slow, its launching sites are vulnerable, the Allied armies have moved too fast. It is time, high time, for the final desperate card. Hitler's ace is the V-2, the unstoppable weapon. This giant rocket, with its tremendous speed, its elliptical trajectory, which carries it 50 miles into the air, and its great range, is to turn the tide of war. There can be no defense. The V-2 cannot be heard and is but rarely seen before it strikes. And so, on September 8, 1944, the first V-2 is fired against England. With the V-1s defeated, Britain has just announced the Battle of London is won. But here is a new horror from the skies, the deadliest weapon of all, a supersonic rocket which strikes without warning. So again, London burns and shudders. But this time, the beleaguered city has no defense. Its dead and wounded never know what fells them. For the V-2 moves faster than the sound of its approach. No anti-aircraft gun can fetch it. No planes exist with even a fifth of its speed. 1,200 V-2s will be fired against London. None will ever be intercepted. The news of V-2 is withheld from the British people. All sorts of fantastic rumors are current. On the first day, it is said a gas main is blown up. Then talk swings to German secret weapons. What kind of weapons, no one knows. Finally, in November 1944, after 2 months, Churchill discloses in Parliament that the German long-range rocket is in action. This time, as at no time before, he knows that defense is hopeless. Again, the battle, a race against time, depends upon the Allied ground armies, tanks and guns and foot sloggers, the big battalions. For suffering London, the only defense is capture of the V-2 launching sites. The troops advance, but the rockets leap skyward, a desperate, maniacal barrage of death and destruction. For 7 long months, as the Allied armies overrun Europe and the awful race of man against missile continues, there reigns upon England a ghastly dew. Had the V-2 been employed 6 months sooner, invasion of Europe would have proved exceedingly difficult, General Eisenhower writes, perhaps impossible. Continue their experiments. They test fire V-9, which they hope to develop into a 3,000-mile missile capable of bombarding the United States. The last V-2 was fired on March 27, 1945, a month before the end. It is too little and too late. Allied armies overrun the launching sites, break the final fanatical resistance, meet upon the Elbe. The Wagnerian finale of the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler comes in a bunker in Berlin as surrender flags fly from a devastated nation. The Allied world goes wild with the heady wine of victory. But peace brings no peace. Those who shout in the streets have never heard of Peenemünde, which might have silenced their cheers. They do not know that Peenemünde has profoundly changed their world. For defeated Germany, it ends where it began. The German missile facilities, shattered by bombing and now a monument to futility, are captured by the Allies. Peenemünde, birthplace of the giant long-range rocket, falls to the Russians with the secrets that have altered history. Now begins Operation Paperclip, the American race to capture the German rocket scientists before the Russians do. A forecast of the United States and Soviet conflict to come. Von Braun, Dornberger, and other leading Peenemünde scientists escape to Bavaria and give themselves up to the Americans. The Russians get a few of the lesser men. Von Braun and many of his compatriots come to America to impart the knowledge they have learned. Today, he and other scientists of Peenemünde, now American citizens, are working for the Army Ballistic Missile Agency in Alabama. The rockets Von Braun built at Peenemünde were but a prelude to America's space-devouring missiles of today. Which shall it be? Descent to the abyss, pathway to the stars.